Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he agree with BERL that, quotes, outside of dairy and forestry, export receipts have effectively flatlined since April 2009, end quote, and that, quotes, the risks inherent in such a narrowing of our export base should be of concern to all? If not, why not?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I would agree generally with the facts as BERL outlined them, and that is that export receipts for categories other than the growing ones have been flat, which is a bit like saying, apart from the fact that the All Blacks scored some tries and kicked some goals, they actually lost to England.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Having last week disagreed with the head economist at NZIER on his assertions about export performance and problems in the regions and widening gaps, is he now saying the head economist at BERL is wrong to warn about the serious problems caused by the narrowing export performance of our country?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes. Just bear in mind the situation here. New Zealand has had a quite high exchange rate for 4 or 5 years. Exporters have done a great job of making progress against that headwind. In that context, we've had higher prices for dairy, and that means that by value they've become a slightly bigger proportion of the export cake. But the member seems to be suggesting we'd be better off if dairy prices dropped a long way, because then we'd have a more diversified export cake, and of course that is silly. We've enjoyed the benefit of high prices for that category. Over the next 3 or 4 years we might enjoy the benefit, for instance, of fast-growing tourism numbers or a growing IT sector. That doesn't mean we're becoming less diversified.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
How does a 19% real decline in non-primary manufacturing exports since 2008 show that the New Zealand economy is getting more diverse?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, what it shows is that the prices for some things in this period, like dairy products and logs, have been higher, and therefore they have grown as a proportion of the total. It changes the composition of our exports. Dairy prices, however, have been dropping, and over the next 4 or 5 years, as we see a burgeoning IT industry, for instance, and an increase in tourist numbers, it may well be that service exports are the star of the next 4 or 5 years. The good thing is we've got industries that are capable of competing globally, and the government doesn't believe it's a problem that the dairy industry has been successful and profitable.
Supplementary question.
Point of order, Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, my question didn't...
Order. I can assist the member. I listened to the question. I've listened to the answer. Member, resume his seat, please. And the question has been addressed. The member has further supplementaries if he wishes to use them.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Honourable.
I would appreciate my point of order being heard before it was ruled upon.
Order. And I did not need to listen any further to the member. The member. Order. Supplementary question, Tim McIntyre.
Thank you.
Point of order,
Mr Speaker, with respect, Mr Parker wasn't even able to get out what his point of order was about. I don't know how you knew what it was going to be.
The member was, the point of order coming from the member was that the question hadn't been answered correctly. I ruled. Order! If the members wish to stay for the balance of question time. Supplementary question, Tim McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr.
Order. Can I just clarify this is a fresh point of order?
I'm seeking some advice from you. Yes.
Order. Member resume his seat. Can we just clarify the member's now raising a fresh point of order, not in any way relitigating a decision I've just made? Fresh point of order, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
So my question is, in respect of standing orders and speakers' rulings, is a member entitled to raise a complete point of order as long as it's within those standing orders, and are you required to listen to the complete point of order?
Order. No, there is no obligation on me to listen to the complete point of order. Order. The member also wishes to stay. He will not interrupt when I'm on my feet. And I don't want to have to warn the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove of that again today. There is no obligation on me to listen to a full point of order. Many points of order take too long. If I feel I've got the gist of the point of order, I will rule on that point of order. Order. Again, can I just clarify that this is not an attempt to waste the time of the House? Is it a fresh...
Not, sir. It's a genuine request that you share...
Order. I will now hear the point of order.
Mr Speaker, it's a request that you share with the House the source of your prescience so we can all read the future.
And that's... Order. And that is not a point of order. And it's the sort of thing that leads to disorder in this House. And equally, if the Honourable Trevor Mallard doesn't start behaving himself today, he will not see the balance of question time. Supplementary question, Tim McIndoe.
Right.
Fresh point of order.
Fresh point of order, Mr Speaker. Could you tell us, as a matter of clarification, whether the standing orders and Speaker's rulings of this House have changed?
So would the member please raise his point of order?
Could you please tell us, as a matter of clarification, for the edification of all of us, whether the standing orders and Speaker's rulings of this House have changed?
Well, over the time that I've been here, standing orders and Speaker's rulings have changed considerably. And I'm sure since yesterday, the House wasn't sitting yesterday, but for the benefit of the member, there has been no very immediate change to standing orders or Speaker's rulings at all. But certainly over the time that I've been here and the time the member's been here, there has been substantial change. Well, the member might want to explain himself further. I'll listen.
Since the House sat today or commenced its sitting, has there been a change in the standing orders or the Speaker's rulings of this House?
Well, I assume the member's now going back and relitigating a point I made earlier, and if the member likes to refer to Speaker's ruling 20(2), he'll see that there is no obligation on a member to hear a full point of order. I presume that's the point the member's making, but no, Speaker's rulings and standing orders do tend to change over time. Supplementary question. Order. Again, before I hear the point of order, I just want to clarify the member's not in any way relitigating where we've been in this discussion. If it's a fresh point of order, I'm happy to hear it.
Mr Speaker, it's related to the discussion, but I seek to draw your attention to another Speaker's ruling.
Will sit down and resume his seat. We have now wasted a considerable amount of the House's time. Order! We've now wasted a considerable amount of time. If the member wants to further clarification on any decision I've made, I invite the member to come and see me immediately after question time, but we are not having continual points of orders being raised as a means of relitigating a decision I've made. Tim McIndoe, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What recent reports has the Minister seen on New Zealand's export performance?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, New Zealand's exports are growing. In fact, primary production exports passed $5 billion in a single month for the first time in March this year. And annual primary production exports exceeded $50 billion for the first time also in March. I've also seen reports that the regions are performing particularly well, particularly those chosen by the Labour Party as the worst performing. For instance, Northland is at the top of the annual growth stakes. Report also notes that Otago is going well, particularly those parts represented by a National MP, I might say. International milk and timber prices have moved around in the last few years, so looking at shares of exports by value will be affected both by the higher price and the increase in quantities as exporters respond to higher profitability.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Does he agree with New Zealand Manufacturers and Exporters Association that quotes, "If you look at New Zealand as a business, you have two products and one customer, and that's not a very good business in terms of resilience"?
Right. Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, let's set the context for the share of exports. In 2013, dairy good exports were 23% of all exports, non-dairy agricultural products 22%, non-agricultural products 30%. So dairy isn't the biggest single category, and services exports 25%. That contrasts, for instance, with Australia, where hard commodities plus oil and gas constitute 70% of Australian exports, and the bulk of the hard commodities go to one market in China. So New Zealand has a relatively diversified range of exports. And again, the member's simply wrong. The fact that you get high prices in some periods for some exports doesn't mean the export base is narrowing. What it means is some exports have done pretty well in the recent years. Over the next 4 or 5 years, it might be different exports that have higher prices. Higher prices in Labor's world are bad. In our world, higher prices for exports are good.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David.
I seek leave to table a table showing that non-primary manufactured exports are down 18% in real terms.
I just require the source of the document.
Well, it's a spreadsheet based on Statistics New Zealand information.
Order.
Well, yeah, it is actually based on...
Order. I'm not going to put the leaves. New Zealand statistics are available to all members. Supplementary question to McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, what policies would put New Zealand's outstanding recent export performance at risk, as occurred in the 2000s when the export sector was put into recession?
Honourable Mr. Speaker, any number of policies that I can think of because I've heard them mentioned. A state-run monopoly electricity system would raise electricity prices. A $25 carbon tax, much higher than is 5 times the world price and much higher than required. And of course, runaway government spending that sucked up resources that could otherwise be invested in our successful, productive and resilient export sector.
Question number 5, Dr Cam Calder.
To the Minister for Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment. What announcements has he